A poor delivery rider got soaked in the rain. 5 days later, the whole world knows his name. Don't cry, Ben. Daddy's just wet from the rain. His voice cracked on the phone as he whispered to his sleeping child, shivering from the storm and from the fear of losing his job tomorrow. A downpour unrelenting. Parts of the city went dark. A food delivery rider clutching a ripped thermal bag stood under the hospital roof, gripping a receipt worth only $1.50, the last money in his pocket. The conflict was brutal. Finish the delivery or save a life. Keep the job or keep his conscience. 5 days before the whole world would know his name. If you find any night, present, rain slash sideways like whips. New York, 7 p.m. The app buzzed nonstop, the map flickering red. His name was Ethan, 29-3 canceled orders away from losing his bonus, wearing a raincoat as thin as tissue. Can you make it? The dispatcher's voice cracked in his earpiece. Ethan answered shortly, going. The street was flooded. Half the wheels sank into the current. He held the delivery bag tight. Inside was dinner for a new mother. The note on the order read, "No chili. Thank you." At the intersection, yellow lights blinked. An old man stumbled across. Ethan braked hard. The man collapsed, clutching his chest, gasping. Around his neck hung a small locket with a black and white photo of a child. "Sir, can you hear me?" The app flashed 6 minutes late. Cancel order. Ethan tapped no. He dragged the man under shelter, pulled off his raincoat to cover him, and called 911. Rain hammered harder. Strangers glanced, then hurried away. A college student stopped, lifted his phone. "I'll record this for you so you don't get blamed." 5 minutes. 10. The ambulance came. Ethan followed into the ER. The dinner was ruined, cold, forgotten. He checked his wallet, one crumpled bill left enough for Ben's milk tomorrow. The app buzzed. Customer canceled. Account penalized. Dispatcher texted, "Too many delays. Account suspended for 3 days." Ethan sank onto a bench, soaked, exhausted. At his feet, the locket glinted. Inside the photo, smeared by rain but still legible. "To my son, 1994. Ethan froze. His own memory flickered, an old photo, his mother's but no father. Beside her. The ER door swung open. Nurse asked, "Are you family?" Ethan shook his head. "No, just a stranger." The student whispered, "That video, it might save you." Cut scene. Hallway lights flickered. Inside, a doctor called a name that made Ethan snap his head up. The same name, written on a letter he never sent. Doctor called Mr. Henry Tran, prepare for intervention. The same name scribbled on the back of the photo. The letter never sent. Passed, 3 years earlier. A 12-square-meter room. Fans squeaked overhead. Ethan wrote a letter to the father he never met. "If one day I have a child, I will never leave. I will stay, even in poverty." He folded it. No address. He tucked it with the only photo of his mother, edges sunburned and fading. That night, his wife Maya went into labor. She was frail. Doctors demanded a deposit. Ethan ran everywhere. It rained then too. Maya gripped his hand. "Don't give up." By morning, Maya was gone. Ben cried for the first time. Ethan held him staring at the cracked mirror. A boy in his 20s had aged 10 years in one night. He searched for jobs, from dishwashing, parking cars, to food delivery. Rain always seemed to fall. When money was short, punctuation marks to his silent promise. "We'll be fine." One evening, his boarding house received a misdelivered parcel. Sender, Henry Tran. Recipient, someone down the alley. Inside were handwritten sheets of music, the paper smelling of damp ink. A note. Since my son won't read my letters, I send music instead. Ethan returned it. But that name clung to his mind like raindrops that never slid off the glass. Back to present. Doctors rushed Henry into surgery. Ethan held the locket. The student said, "Give it back to him." "I'm not family," Ethan muttered. Yet his chest ached with something unexplainable. The name matched the musician's signature on that parcel years ago. Coincidence or fate? His phone buzzed. Notification. Good Samaritan in the rain share now. 12 views. 1 comment. Lose job to save stranger. Worth it. Ethan pocketed the locket. Left the hospital. On the sidewalk, he bought the cheapest bread roll. Crumbs fell. He remembered Maya. Remembered his vow at her photo, Ben will never grow up without a father. The rain slowed. City lights returned. But the question wouldn't let go. Why the same name? At his door, Ethan found a soaked envelope. On it, written by hand, for the one who held the locket. The envelope with no address. Present, cheap paper, tilted handwriting. Inside a folded sheet, ink blurred by rain. If you are reading this, perhaps time has finally forced me to stop. Don't hate music for stealing me away. If you can give this locket to the woman in room 302 City General Hospital. I owe her an apology. No signature, but at the corner, a looping ink mark, a musician's flourish. Room 302. Ethan checked his watch, 11:41 p.m. Ben was asleep at the landlord's. Ethan clutched the envelope and the locket, stepping back into the night. The hospital was silent corridors reeking of disinfectant. Room 302 door half open. Inside sat an elderly woman with silver hair holding a wooden box. On the lid, engraved music notes. The woman in room 302, her hands trembled as she caressed the box. Ethan hesitated at the doorway. The woman looked up, her eyes sharp despite her age. "You found it." Ethan blinked. "What do you mean?" She pointed to the locket in his hand. "Henry never let go of that. If it's with you, then fate has dragged you here." Ethan stepped inside, the linoleum creaking. He collapsed in the rain. I just helped." The woman sighed, opening the box. Inside were old sheet music, yellowed and cracked. At the bottom, a photograph, a younger Henry, smiling with her. She touched the photo gently. "He owes me 40 years, but he owes his son even more." Ethan's throat tightened. His son, she studied him. The silence grew heavy. "You look just like him, except your eyes. Those are Maya's." Ethan froze. Maya, his late wife. But how would this stranger know? The woman corrected softly, "Not your wife, your mother. Her name was Maya Tran, and Henry was her first love." Ethan's grip loosened. The locket slipped into his palm like it had always belonged there. The woman whispered, "You are Henry's son." The shattering truth, the words hit like thunder. Ethan staggered back, his hand pressing against the cold metal bedrail. "That can't be true. My father left before I was born. My mother never, she never told you," the woman cut in gently. "Maya kept her silence because Henry was consumed by music, by ambition. She raised you alone to protect you from disappointment. But fate has a way of circling back." Ethan's chest heaved. His mother's quiet evenings, the way she stared at the old photo, the unspoken bitterness, all of it crashed together in his mind. He wanted to deny it, but the locket in his palm pulsed like proof. The woman leaned closer. Henry never stopped writing. Every sheet in this box is a letter he couldn't send. Notes instead of words. Guilt woven into melody. Ethan lifted a page from the box. The staff lines swirled frantic, unfinished. At the top corner, for E.T., his initials. The hallway lights flickered again. A nurse rushed past muttering, "Patient Henry Tran is unstable." Ethan froze, his throat dry. If this was true, then the man fighting for life behind those walls wasn't just a stranger. He was blood. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A new notification. The student's video had exploded. Delivery rider sacrifices job to save a man. Thousands of views. Comments pouring in. Hero respect, find this man. Ethan didn't care. His pulse thundered louder than the storm. The world wanted a hero. But inside he felt like an abandoned child again. He turned to the woman. "If he's really my father, what do I do?" She placed the box in his hands. "Decide. Forgive or walk away. But know this time is short." Down the hall, a flatline alarm screamed. The choice at his bedside. The alarm shrieked, echoing through sterile corridors. Ethan's legs moved before thought, rushing down the hall toward the ICU. Nurses swarmed around Henry's bed machines, blaring. The man's face was pale lips, tinged blue. Clear, a doctor pressed paddles to Henry's chest. His body jolted, then fell limp again. Ethan gripped the doorframe, his heart thundering. He wanted to turn away to protect himself from the truth. But the words of the woman echoed. He owes his son even more. Again, the doctor shouted. Another jolt. A faint pulse flickered on the monitor. Henry's eyes fluttered open barely. His gaze scanned the room until it landed on Ethan. For a second, recognition sparked. Ethan's breath caught. He stepped closer, clutching the locket. "Are you?" Henry's lips moved, cracked and voiceless. Ethan bent closer. He heard a whisper thin as thread, "Son." Tears blurred Ethan's vision. Decades of absence of silence condensed into one word. He wanted to scream, to demand answers, to curse this man for leaving. But all that came was a choked sob. A nurse urged, "Sir, if your family, speak to him. Sometimes it helps." Family, the word seared. Ethan leaned over, holding the locket to Henry's chest. "You left us, but I'm here now. Don't you dare go without saying why." Henry's trembling hand lifted, brushing Ethan's arm. He mouthed something, "Forgive," before another spasm racked his body. Machines wailed again. Doctors shouted. Ethan's fists clenched, torn between fury and longing. He thought of Ben, asleep at home, growing up with the same emptiness he had known. Was this his chance to end the cycle, or to seal it forever? The monitor steadied, weak but present. Henry clung to life. The doctor turned to Ethan. "If you're his son, there are decisions only you can make. Do we keep fighting?" The weight of decision. The room smelled of antiseptic and sweat. Every monitor beeped in unsteady rhythm, each sound tugging Ethan deeper into a storm inside his chest. He could barely breathe. The doctor's eyes pressed on him, demanding an answer. "Keep fighting or let go." Ethan stared at Henry. Tubes snaked from his body machines, forcing air into failing lungs. This man had been absent his entire life, a ghost whose silence carved wounds deeper than poverty ever had. And now, after decades, fate dropped him back into Ethan's hands. His throat burned. He remembered nights rocking Ben to sleep, whispering promises into the darkness. He remembered his mother's tears she thought he never saw. He remembered the bitterness of scraping by alone. And yet he also remembered Henry's whisper, "Son." Ethan's hand shook as he reached for the locket resting against Henry's chest. He thought of Ben again. If he let Henry go, would his son inherit the same emptiness? If he kept him alive, would forgiveness ever be possible? Finally, Ethan spoke, voice raw. "We keep fighting." The doctor nodded sharply. Orders flew across the room. Nurses surged back to work. Henry's chest rose and fell, faint but steadying. Ethan stepped aside, collapsing against the wall. The weight of his choice pressed into his bones. He didn't know if he had chosen out of mercy anger or fear of repeating the past. Maybe all of it. The woman from room 302 appeared in the doorway, tears streaking her lined face. She whispered, "You've done what Maya would have wanted." Ethan pressed the locket into his palm until it hurt. For the first time, he felt both a son and a father at once, and the unbearable burden of being both. 5 days later, morning light spilled into Ethan's small apartment. The rain had finally stopped leaving the city, washed raw and new. Ben stirred in his sleep, clutching the toy truck Ethan had fixed with tape. Ethan sat beside him, phone buzzing endlessly on the table. Headlines blazed across the screen. Delivery rider saves stranger in the storm world, calls him hero. His face captured in grainy video had traveled farther than he ever imagined. Requests poured in, from journalists, strangers, and companies offering support. Ethan ignored most of them. What mattered was the man still lying in the hospital. Henry had survived the night. His condition was fragile, but stable. The doctor said it was Ethan's voice, his presence, that had kept him tethered. Ethan visited every day after his shifts, sitting in silence sometimes, reading aloud scraps of sheet music he had taken from the wooden box. Henry listened with closed eyes, a faint smile breaking through pain. One afternoon, Ethan brought Ben along. The boy peeked shyly into the room. Henry opened his eyes, weak but alive, and whispered, "My grandson." The word cracked the silence wide open. Ethan's chest ached, but he didn't correct him. For the first time, he let it be. The world outside celebrated a hero. But in that hospital room, it wasn't about headlines or viral videos. It was about a broken line mended, however imperfectly, by rain chance and a choice not to walk away. That night, as Ethan carried Ben home, he looked up. The city lights shimmered against drying streets. He thought of Maya, of his mother, of Henry, of cycles breaking, of forgiveness still out of reach but no longer impossible. He whispered into Ben's hair, "You'll never grow up without knowing your father. And maybe not without knowing your grandfather, too." The rain had ended, but its echo would always remain a reminder of the night a soaked delivery rider chose humanity over survival and found his own story rewritten forever.